Richard Cowperthwait for Northwest Access TV. Thanks for joining us for another show as we get ever closer to the March 4 Town Meeting Day here in Vermont. And we're taping the show today on Thursday, February 20th, and we'll be talking about St. Albans town issues with the Select Board Chairman, Jonathan Giroux, and the Town Manager, Sean Adkins. Good to see you folks on winter. Finally getting some winter around here.
Yeah, it's cold out there today.
Yeah.
And you said you've been to Enosburg Falls earlier today,
that was
Jonathan?
stop number 1 at 6:45. Yeah,
Pretty
negative
cold.
13 on the clock.
Yeah, I told you off here in my early county career years up here, going back to, hate to say it, about 45 years or so. Career at that time was an official National Weather Service substation, and on my personal watch, I recorded either an official 41 or 43 below zero. So, yeah, Enosburg Falls has got that cold spot reputation for sure. Anyway, so town meeting day getting pretty close. People aware of that? Most people aware town meeting day is coming up? Any hearing much buzz about town meeting day, Jonathan, or not much?
No, it's pretty quiet. I haven't
Yeah.
heard not much at all.
I guess I should note right away, we do have a contested race in St. Albans town, which one contested race, which will certainly help the turnout, I can only assume. Amanda Headley, who was appointed to the board, I guess back in December, succeeding Brendan Deso, running for a 2-year term and challenged by Bob Cross, a former longtime St. Albans Town Fire Chief and Public Safety Officer for some years also. So that's a contested race in the town, and incumbent board member Jeff Sanders running unopposed for a 3-year term. And I guess you were a little unsure about Jeff. He didn't make a decision to run again until pretty late. Did you think there was some doubt whether he'd run again or not too much?
I did. He stays tight-lipped.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't. Yeah, he's very tight-lipped. Like
Interesting.
you can try to poke him a little bit, and he
Yeah.
just won't. He won't budge.
So you wouldn't have been, you didn't know what to think about that, or?
I wouldn't been surprised if he
Either
said
way.
he wasn't going to run.
Yeah,
But it
anyway,
wouldn't
but he is
surprise me.
running. I should also note, also on the ballot, Town Constable Peter Hatfield. Is he the current Town Constable?
Yes. Yeah.
Is there any power to that position, Sean or Jonathan?
There's, I think power. Yeah, technically, I guess power. I think it's a strong word to use.
Right.
It's. Let's see. Technically, he can remove unruly guests at town meetings.
Have you ever had him do that?
We have not, thankfully, had to use him for that. Our attendance is not. We haven't had him use him for that. And then there's some other ones that I think are quite unique. And
But
correct
no
me if
traffic, he can't,
No.
no traffic issues, so there's not much to that.
Mm-mm.
Boy, it makes me think, you mentioned Island Pond off here in the Kingdom. They had a town, you remember that? In fact, I should remember his name, but this Island Pond had a town constable for years who was a very active guy. In fact, actually, I had a lady friend visiting me at my Quimby resort up there, which you may not know, but I'm going back decades. She was coming up from Massachusetts, and Miller maybe? I forget the guy's name. But he nailed my friend for a moving stop sign as she was driving through Island Pond. But
Oh, wow.
I guess the guy made Island Pond a ton of money, but eventually became pretty controversial. So-
Yeah, when you came
Yeah,
into
so you
Island
remember
Pond
that.
on 105, like I think it hits 30 or 35 right
Yeah.
there. You wanted to be going 30 or 35 because he was sitting there.
Interesting.
I remember that,
So,
yeah.
so Peter Hatfield running, I guess, for another term for town constable, a 1-year term, and Elizabeth Sato,
Yeah.
the library trustee. Is she a library trustee now, or?
I don't think so. I think
No.
she's works for the school district.
Oh, yeah, anyway,
They
running
also
for
own a
library
restaurant.
trustee.
Her and her husband own
Yeah, the
Kaiju Kitchen.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, is that
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Interesting. Anyway, so one contest, and again, we talked about before, in the old days in St. Albans Town, I'd be used to seeing a number of articles. Now we're down to just one for the races or the race of positions. And Article 2, the biggie for the budget, a proposed almost $7.6 million budget for fiscal year 2026, which we'll certainly talk about at length, I suspect. And then Article 3, Select Board looking for authorization to use up to $300,000 of prior year general fund balance to reduce taxes for FY 2026. Article 3, I guess my question is, why would someone not vote for that? And I'm sure X number of people will not vote for that. It'll pass easily. Why would anybody not vote for that? Is there some reason that I should be thinking of here? Or it just seems like a funny article to oppose.
Yeah, I guess if I have actually talked to a few people about it. I kind of asked just
Yeah,
casually every once in a while. I even posed the question the same way that you have.
yeah,
And mostly from what I hear, it's kind of, to give the town some flexibility, I guess. Some things happen and,
well, I guess that's not
retirements,
crazy, kind of
turnover.
a rainy day fund a bit, or,
Yeah, give or take. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. When we have the turnover, replacing directors, or even when I replace Carrie, because the budget's done, so far in advance, it's good to have a little bit of a,
Vacation buyback, like you can see. in
Yeah.
the-
no, I
it's
guess that,
just
no, I guess.
Good to
I
have a
should
little
have thought of
fluff in
that.
there, so
Yeah.
it just looks better when you're not in a negative, on your budget.
in my
Yeah,
position, yeah, I'll agree with that.
You
Yeah.
know what
So,
I mean?
You don't, there's not kind of an official rainy day fund in the town budget, is there? There's nothing official like that in there? I mean, you usually have a fund balance, I guess, hopefully.
Yeah, well, you have like the engineering lines, depending on what we're doing. Some years you
Yeah.
use them
Yeah.
all up, some years you don't. And then
Yeah.
some years you're still waiting for the grant
Yeah.
money. So they look like they're at a
Yeah.
negative,
Yeah,
but like
Yeah.
you'll get grant money coming in to offset the difference.
Yeah,
So
our
you-
engineering line right now looks like
Looks
we're way
horrible.
over budget, but it's not. It will be reimbursed a good chunk of that. Yep.
yeah. Speaking of Kerry Johnson, I'll be interviewing Kerry next week. She's
Mhm.
back in Franklin County as the
Yeah.
interim town administrator in Highgate now.
Mhm.
Boy, not exactly a big retirement for Kerry so far, but I guess that's part-time, but it was good to see her.
Yeah.
So this was your, second budget you're working with? or
Second
really-
full-
Second full
yeah.
budget.
Mhm.
Much different this time, just a budgeting process for you, Sean, or?
I guess there's not as much of a, huge hike. Last year kind of coming in, my first full budget cycle, we were entering into the police
With the
agreement.
police.
So, I was looking at, oh my gosh, I just got here and I have to kind of sell a very large increase.
Right,
Thankfully, there's none of that this year. It was the only real increase this year. Well, outside of inflationary and, police and insurance costs, we didn't go up at all. In fact, we probably would have gone down.
so you're not paying any more for police coverage this year?
No,
is
we
it?
are.
You
We are. I just mean in general, in terms of the overall budget,
Okay.
our overall figure wouldn't have gone up if it wasn't for the
Okay.
increase in police, insurance, and inflation, so.
Boy, it
yeah.
sounds like insurance is the big issue these days, huh?
Yep, yep, it is, and we're looking into other options on that front, just to see what we can do to, of course, save the taxpayer dollars, but it's a tough, kind of makes you feel like a rock and a hard place, especially in Vermont where there's
Boy, you
very
don't-
limited,
We're talking not too many options here, right?
2 or 3 at most, yeah,
Really?
yeah, so.
Or was for your days in Virginia, or did you just have way more options down there? Was that a very different situation, like with insurance?
It wasn't, we weren't experiencing the same hikes as we are here.
Yeah.
It might just be a matter of timing, but it could also be the lack of options.
Yeah.
But down there, we would kind of essentially hire an agent to do it because there were so many options and so much more negotiations, apparently, because it's a big undertaking to switch a whole, municipal operation from one insurance carrier to
Yeah.
another. So it's a heavy lift.
So the budget is up how much? What are we talking for a percentage increase here?
4.9.
4.9.
Mhm.
John is pretty comfortable with that?
I think so. We started up a lot higher than that.
Yeah.
And we tried to nail it down the best we could just because, we had a bigger increase in that last year. So we're just trying to be as level funded as we could, you
Yeah.
know.
And I know municipal folks, I think, love to hear, to remind voters that the budget that folks will be voting on is about 3/4 school budget and about 1/4 municipal budget.
Yeah.
When talking overall budget. Boy, the Maple Run hearing much talk about the school budget. That was certainly a huge issue in Vermont a year ago. I'm not hearing as much talk now. Of course, the legislature, the governor's proposed some very significant changes in education funding. We'll see where that goes, and it may take a while, but
Yeah.
but that was a huge issue. I'm not hearing as much talk about that now. Are you hearing much talk about the school budget?
No, not much. I don't think.
And Maple Run last year had a very close, was approved on a very close vote.
Yeah.
Before that, it had been, I think every year had been pretty easy approvals.
But even our budget,
Yeah.
2024 was by 120 votes.
but
Oh, is that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is that
so
right?
it's as the years progress,
No, just with,
the
again, with
numbers
the police
getting,
situation.
the numbers getting tighter and
Wow.
tighter because people don't really care about the nuts and bolts of it.
Yeah.
They just care about the number.
The number.
Not a lot of people dig into all the details.
No, that's a good point. So the vote a year ago was
Yeah,
not
it's
overwhelming.
It's getting tighter and tighter. So in the school budget, I think they're at 2%, 78 million.
Sounds
something
about
like
right,
that.
yeah.
They're at 2%, I think is what I read in the paper.
Yep, about 78 mil.
Yeah, so hopefully it all passes, because
Yeah.
I don't know what we're gonna cut besides departments.
Yeah, because we don't have any real programs or services in our
Oh.
budget, or overall. So we basically cut everything we could this year.
Wow.
Yeah.
We lowered a few lines. So yeah, like last year, I was worried about being collateral damage. That just, people seeing education and then seeing
Yeah.
our hike, even though they're very separate, obviously,
Yeah.
completely separate. But I'd like to think that's why it was so close last year, but I also understand because of the huge
Yeah.
increase with the police.
No, that's a good point. I was thinking about that. It was a relatively tight vote a year
Yeah.
ago.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's just, we've been so fortunate, like, it always passes by a lot, but
Yeah.
we're in that climate of where, I still get nervous about it, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah.
but-
Boy, so if you ran into a budget defeat, and I have no memory of a St. Albans town budget even being defeated. I've been up here forever.
According to Anna, I don't think it's happened.
Well,
No.
that might well
In
be
her
the
time,
case. St.
yeah.
Albans City, the one budget defeat I remember, maybe the only one since I've been around, was when they downsized the police department. I think Marty Manahan was mayor, going back a number of years, but a lot of controversy about that, and that went down, but, yeah, and anyway, we'll see what happens. Any major changes in this budget for the town for FY '26?
Compared to last year, or anything
Yeah,
like that?
yeah.
Not really. Just kind of did a lot of zooming in, looking at past year's performance and spending, and really just zoomed in is the best way to put it. And say, all right, what did we spend on this line? Like, we essentially removed a lot of a potential buffer, which, as a town manager, I'll be
Yeah.
honest, is a little bit
Sure.
anxiety-inducing.
Yeah,
But we obviously wanted to keep things as low as we could. So the only line I can think of that went up at all was the equipment, parts, and repair line for the DPW, which is
Right.
obviously a very important line.
Yeah.
And that's the only one. It went up. I think technically the percentage was like 11%, but it went from 80 to 90,000. But we took out of so many other lines that, I think a lot of people would agree with us that that's a very important line, as the guys do a great job plowing
yeah.
and all that stuff. We can't have that line underfunded, so.
Huh.
Yeah.
Speaking of DPW, I forget, you've been looking for a new DPW director chief?
Yeah.
Have you found said person?
We have not, unfortunately. No, it's been a tough sled.
I assume you had some applicants for the job?
We had a lot of applicants for the
Really?
job.
And none of whom grabbed you too much, or?
Well, and who knows, maybe it was the post, but we had some interesting applicants. We had like an
Really?
environmental law student apply
Really?
to that, stuff like that. So,
Huh.
and talking to Dave about it too, it's a matter of, I think we got really lucky with Dave to get somebody with his level of experience, both amount of years and also just,
Yeah.
he's been all over the place. He's worked for state, local, private.
Was Milton's chief for a while?
Yep.
Public Works
He's
Department
with
chief in
Burlington
Milton,
before
and,
that.
really?
He's been really Panama, country Panama. He's been all over the place.
You make
Plus
me
he's an
think of his
engineer.
wife, as I happen to throw in his wife, Sarah, who knows the Fairfield Librarian.
Library, yep.
And for folks who like book sales, I love book sales.
Mhm.
Saturday, 10 a.m. is when their annual book sales
So I do
start.
that.
Sorry to throw in,
It's
as I
fine.
think about it.
It's a good nod.
So are you looking for new applicants again, or what are you doing now? You're
Yeah,
trying to
we're-
convince Dave to stay around longer?
Hey, I'm trying. Yeah.
When's he looking to leave?
He's a good man, thankfully.
Yeah.
He's not going to leave until we find somebody
Oh,
good.
really?
Yeah. And we've talked about, trying to
Huh.
make it a little easier for him, as this progresses. I think
Yeah.
we're all surprised that we didn't find somebody by now.
So what are you doing?
On that front,
Yeah.
we're essentially about to go back to the drawing board.
Really?
And it's also a matter of expectations, which is why I was talking about how we got lucky with Dave. To get somebody with his credentials to come from the private sector
Huh.
would blow the budget out to just an unrealistic number. So
Really?
we're in the midst of, we just started doing that, actually. So
Jonathan,
yeah.
you surprised you didn't fare better with that, or do you have any feel for that? Was that surprising that Nobody
Not- not-
grabbed you?
Not really, because I
Really?
think we increased our standards, and luckily we found
Yeah.
somebody like Dave that met all of our expectations.
Yeah,
And, because we wanted somebody that was a licensed engineer, we wanted somebody with stormwater background. I mean, Dave's just
Just fit
so much
every-
knowledge.
could
And
deal with
he
everything?
just, he's very smart.
Huh.
Good with people.
He's good with, just the list goes on and on. It's hard to find somebody to, replace him, that's all.
wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. Is the pay competitive compared to other Vermont places?
It is.
Yeah.
Yep. But again, something with him is he lives in the town too.
Wow.
So it's
right.
you couldn't have spun the wheel and hit
Right.
a better jackpot with
Wow.
him. So yeah. So we're it's I'm surprised, I guess, just because I just was optimistic about it.
Yeah.
And if anything, I feel bad for Dave because I know he's he's lived a long good career, and his kids are older, and just wants to do things with them and his family. So we're trying.
Oh, interesting. Any other issues like that with personnel in the town? Any other kind of personnel issues of note?
We're hiring an assessor. So that's one of our assistant assessor left, and Bill will be retiring too. So we're kind of created technically a new position in terms of title. So it'll be a full assessor.
Are we
And,
talking reappraisal? Of course, St. Albans City's in the process of a reappraisal. Are you folks also?
I would, if I'm not a betting man, but if I was, I'd say it'd be coming up in the next year or so.
Getting close?
So,
Yeah.
we
We just dodged it last year.
Yeah, we kicked it around a little
Really?
bit,
Yeah.
but there was something coming out from the state, and
Yeah.
so there was a bunch of moving parts that haven't really got hammered out yet. But
Mhm.
we're going to see it sooner than later.
Boy, it
Yeah.
sounds like a lot of towns and cities are doing that. It sounds like it's even maybe hard to even find reappraisal people. There's so many folks doing that, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
And there's kind of, I don't know if it's rumor or whisper is the right word, that the state will be kind of handling the reappraisal process, at least
Really?
in terms of organizing it. So
Because of
we're
course
all
it
kind
comes
of
to mind
limbo.
with education funding, the whole education funding thing, and CLA, what common level of appraisal, whatever it
Yeah.
is. Interesting. No, it sounds like a lot of communities are dealing with that.
yeah.
When you run into folks, Jonathan, when you're out in the town, what's the most thing on voters' minds? I mean, just come down to taxes pretty much, how much are taxes going up, or any?
Usually I get, have you sold the town hall yet? The
Is that
old
right?
Town hall. Like, that's the big
Is
one.
that right? That's
yeah,
the biggie?
that's the big, that's the one. Have you sold that town hall yet?
Yeah.
Interesting.
And I said, no, but we're still trying.
Yeah.
And speaking of which, that was certainly, of course, on my list here. And you do have a new real estate firm trying to market that.
Yeah, we do.
Any,
Donahue.
in fact, I just interviewed the two candidates for the select board, got into that a bit. Any bites with the new real estate agency dealing with it, Sean? Anything?
Not yet. I mean, they just got
Yeah.
up and running with it too.
Yeah.
So I want to say mid to late January is really when the contract was executed. So yeah, their team's on it. They told me about their kind of different avenues that they're
Yeah.
I don't know, areas, I guess, that they'll be listing it in.
Yeah.
So it won't be purely. Previously, it was listed as only in MLS, which I believe is just residential.
Yeah.
So this firm is going to be doing both residential and commercial. So
Interesting.
yeah,
So that's the question you get most of the time.
That's the question.
I get it quite a bit too.
And what do you, no, so obviously the answer is no, we haven't sold it yet, but do most people who ask you that want to hope there's a future for it? Do you run into some folks who are saying,
Yeah, I think they wanna know
why are you
what-
even bothering to try to keep it going?
I think they
Of course,
want
I
to
remember my
know.
last show with you, which I,
Yeah.
I just think they want to know what's going to be there.
Yeah.
What's the future of the building. That's
Yeah.
all. But I had somebody call me or text me at the end of January, and they pulled into the old town hall, and they're like, "Nobody's here. Is it closed today?" I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
"Where are you?" They're like, 579 late or whatever it is.
Really?
Yeah.
And I'm like, "No, keep going down Georgia Shore Road. It's a new building." I'm like, "Oh, boy."
interesting.
Because
Yeah,
some
so
of the
just-
maps haven't updated the.
Right. But
The
that person has
location,
been to the,
yeah.
like, I'm like, but that's
Really?
2 years, like, so some people don't even
Yeah.
keep track
Interesting.
of what's going on in the
Yeah.
town, but I know
Yeah.
that person votes, but I don't know what to,
Yeah.
whatever.
That
We
makes
have
me-
updated it. At least on Google Maps, it does say 398 Georgia Shore now.
That's
so,
good.
Yeah.
Makes me think of Highgate. I've been going to its traditional town meeting for forever, I mean, decades, and Highgate voters by 10 votes last year voted to go all Australian ballot.
They used to have it in the school, right?
What's that?
they had it in the school.
Yeah,
right?
the school forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, they just did that last year.
The vote last year was, it might have been, I think it might have been on the ballot the year before too, but it was on the
Wow.
ballot last year, and by 10 votes, they voted to go all Australian ballot.
Wow.
So I'm just curious, I'm sure, I can't wait. I'm almost tempted to go up there at 10 o'clock. I'm sure a bunch of people will show up at the school at 10. Well, at least they can
Yeah.
vote when they show up. But
Yeah.
Anyway, just another town getting away from the traditional town meeting. Back to the town hall. Sean, you've got hope. You think there's a future for this building?
I still have hope. Yes, yes, I do. Yeah, I mean, honestly, just for my career, just projects take a long time to get done, whether it's selling a place or buying a place. You hear a lot of no's before you hear a yes. So I'm just kind of conditioned for a process like this.
Yeah.
I'm glad we have an agent doing it, because I did underestimate how, like, the environment up here in terms of, I thought it would have sold a lot quicker.
Yeah.
But again, like I think I said, I probably said a few times on here, if there's water sewer there, we would not be having this
In
conversation
fact,
right now.
That was my
Yeah.
next question. So the
Mhm.
sewer, the septic issue is a huge issue there.
Yes, yeah. It's got capacity for 22 employees a day right now. But-
Wow.
I don't know if
Yeah.
it's a huge issue. It just it
It's
makes
an
the
issue.
it makes the building not
Yeah.
worth as much. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
your hands are tied. What you
Yeah.
can do with
Yeah,
the
it
building.
limits the options, yeah.
But
Yeah.
if we had water and sewer, that thing would have been sold like day 2.
Yeah, because
I
people
know.
talked about want to do even potentially like a restaurant type thing down
Really?
there, and that's just out of the question
Huh.
with the current.
Hey, speaking of a restaurant, as I
Yeah.
think about it, I think I saw your truck at the new Bubba's.
Bubba Duffers.
The old Green Mountain Cafe. Are they up and running
Yeah.
now?
Yeah, 359 Lake Street. They have buffets Saturday and Sunday, and I
Run
think they're open.
buffets?
Yeah, it's
Really?
a breakfast buffet from 6 to noon, I believe.
Wow,
And then Wednesday through Friday, they serve lunch and dinner.
really?
Yeah,
So no breakfast Monday through?
I don't believe so.
What is it, what's the, Bubba's?
Bubba
Bubba
Duffers
Duffers.
favorites.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah,
These
it's-
local folks?
Yeah, they're from Highgate. Highgate, I believe. Jeffrey LaBelle and
Really?
Teresa LaBelle. Yeah,
Oh,
Yeah, they had the
interesting.
food truck at the old. What was
one
that?
pound.
Right,
One
I've seen
Yeah.
that. Oh, is
Yeah,
that
that's
was your
them,
food?
Yeah,
Oh,
they wanted
really?
a bricks and mortar place, and so they
Oh,
rented
really?
that building. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, see, they're very so the guy owns Sparkle Clean,
Huh.
cleaning business right in the old bank in front of
yeah?
the old J.C. Penney's.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so he's pretty ambitious. They're excited about it.
Interesting. That's
Yeah.
good.
I haven't
Good.
been yet.
I loved when Green Mountain Cafe was there for a few years. I wasn't there much, but I loved their breakfast and stuff. But
Yeah,
boy, all I know about the restaurant business is what a tough business it is.
yeah, yeah,
But I think the
Sure.
help, the help is
Not
a
to
big
mention
issue,
staffing
too,
sounds like always a
staffing
huge
is
issue.
yeah.
You know,
Well, so we have a new restaurant in town. Interesting. Oh, back to talking about it, water and sewer. And we talked about that before.
Mhm.
Is that getting closer? I mean, the thought of really moving on, trying to get municipal water and sewer from the city down to the Bay Area?
well, I think we have that whole study for the Bay Area, but as Sean just went to the
State
State
House.
House the other day and
Yeah.
testified for us to take over Route 36 from Black
Okay.
Bridge to Adams Street.
Yeah?
So
On
that's
Tuesday.
that's like step one. Once we get that approval, then
Huh.
we don't have to cut through the red tape with the Department of Transportation.
Yeah?
It just, it'll make everything easier for us to want, as far as development along that road, if we ever put a sidewalk in, water and sewer, it just allows us,
Yeah,
when we change the intersection down
Yes.
by the Bay Dock and Bayside, that
Yeah.
little
Georgia
curve with
Shore
the,
and like-
that
Yeah.
horrible intersection, whenever we come up with a plan to make that work better.
You got to run it by the state, obviously. and-
Not if we have the road.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
right. I mean,
Yeah.
right now,
Right now, we do,
Right.
it's just another step that drags out the it'll just be
Mhm.
easier if we,
So that would make
Take
your
it
life
over.
definitely a lot easier if you can take that over.
yeah. And when I testified, V-Trans was with me, Michelle and Ashley.
And they're cool. They're cool with us?
I think they would want. They've actually
They'd be
said they
hap-
want. Oh yeah, they
they'd
want
be-
more
they'd be
towns to
happy
take
with
over
us.
roads, especially this one because it's kind of separate from the rest of their local routes.
Right. Did you testify before House Transportation Committee?
Yes.
And,
yeah.
and we have actually a local chair, right?
Yeah, no,
Rep
Matt.
Nat Walker from
Mhm.
Swanton.
Yeah, yeah, he was
Interesting.
great. Yeah, and they answered. They asked me quite a few questions. And, answered them, and they asked the who, what, when, where, why. And
Yeah.
also, thank you to Representative Dickinson, who's happened to bump into her, and she came in there with me and,
Oh, yeah.
and helped out. So,
Interesting.
and V-Trans actually confirmed. I was kind of trying to be careful with my words. They were asking me why, and I didn't, just wanted to be careful. And Michelle Boomhover from V-Trans kind of raised her hand and started saying, like, well, no, yes, this does, if we own, as in the state, if the state owns it, then we have a list of priority, a priority list that we'd have to hopefully climb over the years to move forward with a water sewer or intersection thing.
Yeah.
And if we own it, we can do it on our own pace.
So it sounds like that should move ahead. Does that look like that should happen at some point?
Which part?
I mean, just the town taking over that section of Route 36?
I would
If the
say-
General Assembly approves it, July 1st we'll take.
Oh, is that right?
ownership.
So it's got to be a vote in the legislature
Mhm.
to approve that?
Yep.
I think it
Interesting.
will be. I mean,
It's in the
Well,
budget for
certainly,
next
I
year.
would think if the committee's recommending it and stuff.
and the state garage is up there now, so for them to come through the city,
Right.
they'll want us to take 36 over next,
Yeah.
or 38, sorry.
Yeah. So that may well happen. You're hoping that'll happen this year.
Mm-hmm. I'm hopeful, yeah.
Interesting.
I can't
Well-
speak for the General Assembly, but I'm
Yeah.
hopeful.
Yeah.
Have you testified before the legislature before, Sean, or?
Not here, no.
Yeah.
No. I find it to be a pretty aggressive word choice that
Yeah.
they use. I say that playfully, of course, but
Did you do that in Virginia? Did you go to Richmond? Did you testify before the legislature in Virginia at all?
we did. It was more of, it was a different setup, I guess, or environment.
What is it, the House of Delegates in Virginia, right, for
Mhm.
the House?
Yep, and I worked very closely with went down there. Shout out to Delegate Ren Williams.
Huh.
We got a lot of stuff done together, but in bigger rooms, I'll say. The State House rooms are pretty pretty
Yeah.
tiny. But yeah, no, it wasn't out of the ordinary for anything I've done. It's just a new environment. Yeah.
In fact, I stopped en route. I was on a bus. I was trying to take a train. I was on a trip down to North Carolina getting to D.C., and my train trip was canceled. So I
Yeah.
took a Greyhound bus from Durham to D.C. and stopped in Richmond.
Yeah.
And it sounds like Richmond's got some life to it, but boy, the bus station didn't even seem, we were under
It's a little messy.
under the inner.
yeah, it's a little messy.
Took the bus
Yeah.
driver, I mean, it was wild.
Yeah, yeah,
And anyway.
yeah. But you go to the cobblestone areas, it's pretty nice. But
Yeah. So back to water and sewer, we're talking years. If this happens, we're talking X number of years down the road to get water and sewer from the city down to the bay, or maybe not a bunch of years, or just hard to say?
depends on the funding. If we own the road,
Yeah.
obviously it'd be less years. I'm starting to get to learn about what it takes to put this in the boring, and apparently they can do 600 to 800 feet of boring a day. So I think the lion's share, depending on if they run into, ledge or anything like that,
Huh.
I think the most of the time is going to be the planning and the funding to get it done. Yeah.
What are we talking, how long an extension would be needed?
Well, the stretch we're taking over is 2.83 miles.
Is that right? And that's about, I mean, this sewer line in the city, municipal sewer goes down past Adams Street,
And that's where the line is
That's where
Adams
the line
Street.
is.
It does go down a little bit.
a
It
little bit
stops
farther.
It stops before the fire department.
So we're talking like 2 miles or 2?
That's probably about right,
About
at
2
least at
miles
that
or so.
stretch. But to do the first phase of the water sewer, would branch off towards, the town hall, so it'd be a little
Huh.
bit more than the
Interesting.
straight line, yeah.
City just came up before, I guess, town meeting day, annual city meeting, I think a $19 million renovation of the city wastewater plant,
Mhm.
but capacity, city's got capacity, is that not an issue as far as you know, or do you not have a handle on that?
The water side of it is,
refer-
is,
no.
is, dec- is, I guess if it would happen tomorrow, it would be more of a seamless transition in terms of capacity.
Yeah.
The wastewater side is the bigger challenge from
Is
what
that
I
right?
get, yeah.
That might be a challenge.
Yeah, that's what I gather from it, yeah. I
Yeah.
can't speak for them, but
No.
that's my understanding, yeah.
Speaking of the fire department, any new news? Still moving on a new fire department headquarters? Is that one of the bigger issues you're trying to pull off in 2025, Jonathan, or not going to happen that fast, or?
I don't really know. I don't know if that's like the burning item right now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, it's one of them. We got a bunch of stuff that's like all out in the front.
yeah.
yeah,
You know, the 36 takeover is big because that would depend, you know, if we put the fire department next to the old one
Yeah,
and do another lease with the cemetery, you know, we'd want, water and sewer to the new building.
yeah,
So
Yes.
we're kind of, we need, you know, but if we can't take the road over, or for some reason we're not gonna do water and sewer,
Yeah.
then we're probably not gonna put the fire department there, we'll put it somewhere else.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but, so the taking over the road makes a lot of things open up.
interesting.
Yeah.
That's
So-
that's a
Yeah.
biggie.
I mean, you could do a short stub to the fire department, but if you're gonna do the short stub, why
Might as
not
well
just
do
go
the whole
all the
thing.
way with it?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
then but then the funding thing, like if we can get some funding, and we have quite a bit of money in, unallocated funds in LOT, so,
Yeah,
you know, we could allocate some of those funds for, there's a bunch of stuff
Yeah.
that.
Depending on the size of it too, is kind of, yeah, there's just a few different things that we're kind of waiting for to kind of pull the trigger on that.
Huh. I think on the last show, the question was whether there'd be enough room at the current site of the fire department.
Yeah.
That's still not certain at this point. I think you said that was definitely questionable, or is that still uncertain at this point?
Yeah, it's still uncertain. We're still kind of working through, and me and Chief Mulheron, just trying to gauge on what we would need. It's hard to say what we'd need in 50 years, or to get us through 50 years. And I know from the state level, they're doing a bigger push towards. I'm gonna get this wrong. I don't know. My brain always messes this up. But essentially, like a public emergency hub or station of some
Like a
sort.
shelter, like.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, center of operations basically. That'll go just beyond really what just the fire department. So
Yeah.
we're kind of working through that, seeing how much space we need. Because if it gets to the point of, you know, let's see, our DPW, our new one's 18,000 square feet. If we get to that
Yeah.
point, I don't see how it could fit on the. Granted, it'd be a different setup, but it'd be a tough fit on the current site. So we're just working through a lot of those
Yeah.
details.
But there's multiple building design, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
certain things you can do, and,
Yeah,
you know, so it's,
that's the preferred site.
Yeah.
I know by most of the guys. So
Yeah.
But-
Again, we're taping this show on Thursday, Feb. 20. I guess the select board met last night, Wednesday, Feb. 19,
Mhm.
from my earlier show, and I guess you got into some discussion about the former Public Works garage site and what to do with that site.
yeah, we did, the planning commission presented us 3 different options,
Yeah,
just kinda in the planning phase. So option A was a boat launch, pretty much a boat launch and some
full
other,
motorized, yeah.
for motorized boats, and a kayak
Huh.
launch next to it. And option B was a playground, pretty much just a playground with a kayak launch. Everyone had a kayak launch in every option.
yeah.
Option
Probably
C
makes sense.
was keep the salt shed, convert it to
Community venue.
community center, some kind of a habitable building of some sort, and
Huh.
then have a,
Like green space and
yeah,
parking.
great little park area, and then a
Huh.
kayak launch also. Price point from A, B to C was 1.5, 1.6, and it's a little over 3 million for
Really?
option C.
Mhm.
So as a board, we decided to close the grant out, move forward with option A and C.
And
just to
rule
see.
out the playground.
Yeah, well, there's 7 playgrounds in St. Albans right now. I
Yeah.
don't know if we need another one.
Huh.
We got one right at the Bay Park. Like, if we want to
Yeah.
renovate that one,
Right,
that one's been
Right.
renovated not too many years ago. But a lot of them, Cohen Park's fairly new.
Mhm.
Like, they're all, Holton Street's like brand new.
and of course, the schools obviously have
Yeah, and the
playgrounds.
schools and, yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we really need a playground, but community center, boat lawn, whatever that looks like down the road.
Huh. So
Yeah.
the salt shed, does that make sense to you folks? I guess it does. The salt shed could be usable for something else in the future?
It's actually in better shape and newer than the old garage.
Really?
Like maybe it's just the orange color of the old garage or something that makes it look newer.
Huh.
But there would be renovations to it, and if they did all the bells and whistles one, that's when the estimate goes up pretty high. But then, you know, because of the lake shore and all that, if we were to demolish it, we can't put one back, basically, because it was grandfathered in.
Huh.
But it really comes down to if we can even do a boat launch. I've talked to the Army Corps, and they're looking into the viability of it. So
I mean, lake levels, it's pretty shallow there. Is
Yeah.
that's one of the concerns, or other concerns too?
yeah, the shallow, the grade, the slope, the proximity to the marina. There's a few things there.
I measured that this morning. It's 485 feet.
Really?
Yeah. From the nearest point of land to the marinas.
What do the marina folks, what do they think? They
Chuck
got-
wants it.
I'm sure Chuck
He-
wants
he'd
it,
love
yeah.
to.
Wants a
like it.
boat launch. And
Yeah.
he's like, it's not even self-serving. It doesn't really help. If anything, it takes business away, but it
Yeah.
brings a lot of people to the area.
And we've talked many times before, I mean, just the traffic out on, when you go out to Kilcare, the boat access there,
Yeah,
just
It's tough.
not a good situation on a,
It's horrific.
yeah.
yeah.
It's even getting worse. Ever since COVID happened,
Huh.
like
Got
people,
one- got more?
oh, it's full. Like I sold my boat
Yeah,
right middle of COVID, just because like you couldn't. And then when I bought my boat, I was working third shift, so you could get out in the morning and you had the boat
Wow.
launch to yourself.
wow,
But when I started working, regular 8 to 5 or 8 to 4, whatever, you get home and it's full. On the weekends, it's full. I'm like, well,
Right.
I never get to use my boat, and I couldn't
Right.
put it on a slip. Just that the design of the boat doesn't really fit on a slip all
Yeah.
that well. So.
Not the best 2 days of a boat owner's the day you buy it, the day you sell
Yeah,
it.
pretty much. Yeah, you're right. So,
Yeah.
so I don't know what that property looks like, down the road. But we're gonna close that grant out with that and
Yeah.
look at those other options.
The marina folks, has that worked pretty well? It seems like I see more
Yeah.
traffic there each summer, but that's worked out pretty well for them,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I talked to Chuck. He's up already this year on
really,
pre-season orders for boat slips.
Yeah.
Yeah.
interesting.
cool.
And again, we talked before about the study in the Bay Area, whatever,
The master plan?
the master
Yeah.
plan.
Yeah.
So that's ongoing, obviously, or
That
what's?
is closed out, and that'll be
Oh, really?
presented to the select board. Might not jam that in on the 17th, but within the next month or two, at least, yeah.
And what will the select board be doing with that? This is whether to approve it, or what's the process with this?
Not really, approve it, it's a matter of, just kind of
Show it
seeing
to 'em?
it. Yeah, it was grant funded, so we didn't, that's not, didn't come too much out of we might have had a 20% match on it, but.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's just kind of really just to show what could be done here. I was involved with it. It's nothing, too aggressive or controversial or anything like that. Just to kind of give some kind of vision. When we went for it, kind of my goal was just like, man, this used to be a bustling, village area.
Yeah.
Port Washington, especially those days. What does a modern version of that look like? So we just kind of had the SE group out of, he's actually has a house in St. Albans, so. Yeah, I think it turned out well. Again, nothing that would push the envelope too far. Just some different ideas of, maybe some zoning and some beautification and maybe some traffic flow, but I think it went well.
Have you heard of anybody, and has anybody perchance ever mentioned doing any kind of an excursion boat thing down in St. Albans Bay? Has that ever come up, just coming into the dock and, as happens in Burlington, obviously? Anybody ever heard about anything like that?
We talked about it.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it'd be great if any.
Yeah, yeah. I wouldn't want to do it as a town, but
Yeah.
Right,
certainly,
right.
at least be in charge of it.
I know Chuck
just
rents
fine.
pontoon boats, and he's got
Yeah.
a couple
Yeah.
other boats he rents,
Yeah.
but I haven't heard of anything.
He ferries out to Burton and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Old Stone House, anything, what's going on with the Old Stone, any new news on the Old Stone House?
I'd say if the old town hall is number one, Stonehouse is number two.
Is that right? That's number
Things
two?
we asked.
Do people ask you about Old Stone House?
Once in a while,
yeah.
yeah, that's I don't know. This time, well, in the winter months, it kind of like, people don't think about
Yeah.
it. But
Yeah.
when they start having
Right.
the farmers markets and the bands,
Yeah.
like people are like, oh, what are you doing
Yeah.
with this? And
And again, as I've said before, I think whoever thought of adding music to the Thursday Farmers Market, just great. It's a great event.
Yeah, we've got some new aspects to the farmers market that'll be out
Yeah.
shortly. Yeah. We're doing-
Thursday, same day.
Yep.
And
We have,
still music with it.
Yep, and
Right.
we've got almost all at this point, I think, of the music booked. And we've waived all vendor fees for Franklin County-based
Oh, really?
companies and businesses.
What was it in the past? What was that fee in the past
I think it was like $65 for the season.
for the season? So not too.
Yeah, I think
Interesting.
it was that. Yeah, and there's another. Yeah, it was fairly honestly just nominal. So when we were looking at it, we were like, we don't do this to make money off of it. We do it to get the community out and,
Yeah.
and support the businesses. So I was just like, why don't we just waive it? It wasn't like we were throwing away
A ton of money.
tens of thousands,
Yeah,
yeah,
no,
not
no,
even
no, yeah.
that, but fraction of that, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's next on the old stone house? I know the slate roof sounds like a huge issue, just dealing with that, but
That is a
just
big
trying to
one.
still figure out what to do with this thing, or?
Yeah, and we've got an architect on board for it. It's kind of he's been pretty busy, so we're just waiting for him to get finished up and do some plans and show us what kind of numbers we're looking at.
Laz Skangas, is
Mhm. Yeah,
Laz
it's
is
Laz.
dealing with that?
Yeah, yeah.
Certainly
so-
knows the terrain around here very, very well.
Well, he
Yeah.
made City Hall look pretty nice.
Yeah.
I believe he was the one that was in charge of that renovation.
Could well be. I know Jim Cameron was, did the actual
The work,
the
yeah,
work on
yeah.
it, but.
But yeah.
Stormwater, you could probably spend the rest of the show on that, but
Yeah.
it sounds like some progress on some of the stormwater projects.
Yeah, a lot more than I think has been done in a long time. Thanks in large part to the stormwater utility and Dave and Julie. We've finally not done, but halfway done with the Tanglewood project, which was one of the first words I think I heard when I started here.
Is that right?
Was Tanglewood. They were able to work a lot longer than we anticipated. They started in November.
yeah.
We thought they were going to have to stop in early December, and because of the warm weather, they went through all the way through the first week of January.
Obviously
Yeah.
stop now,
Oh yeah, they stopped around January 10th or so, something like that.
but that
yeah.
should be finished up.
That should be done in May or June. Yeah,
Really?
depending on how quickly they can
And
get
that'll
back
be
in.
the first one of those projects that'll be finished?
First one of that size, for sure.
size.
It might end up being the biggest, actually. Hopefully most expensive. But obviously, we have dozens of projects worth a lot of money. So just by the time we get to some of them, others will probably be more expensive just with inflation. But Clyde Allen's the next project to break ground on that.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can do that this year. Yeah, but there's a long list of them that we have to get done by 2036 per the state.
We
so.
got a big culvert replacement happening on Fairfax Street.
No, really?
So that's gonna come out here
Wow.
at some point. We're putting it out to bid, I think.
Next
soon.
month. Yeah.
Oh, is that right, on Fairfax
Yeah, right in
Street?
the dip by the old
Yeah.
hockey where they play hockey on the
Yeah.
left there,
Yeah.
right there. So that road will be closed at some point whenever we
summer.
get over the summer, and then
Really?
yeah, because it's too small, right?
Yeah.
Wait,
So
I've
no
I've
way
seen
you
it,
can
and it's
get
like
around
30
it.
feet down.
Yeah, so we gotta. I think they're gonna do a box culvert or prefabricated
Yeah.
concrete or something like that.
Interesting.
It's going to be a much bigger
It's-
one.
yeah, it's gonna
How
be-
long a road, you gotta handle, how long will the road be closed? You got a feel for that?
Don't have a feel for that yet,
I don't-
unfortunately. No,
yeah.
it's a big. We didn't. I think we call that Julie's culvert, our stormwater coordinator.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't on anybody's inventory. That's how
Really?
long it's been there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so they did something like almost 600 culvert inspections last year, the town, and that was a discovery. So
Oh, is that right?
yeah, and I've seen it. It's tiny.
It's too old, too small, or?
Yeah, it's way too small. I think it might be. I don't even think it's an 18-inch culvert. Yeah.
Really?
And
Oh,
it's
really?
just like it's tiny.
Wow.
Yeah. It might
that-
just look that small because it's under 30 feet of,
Yeah,
of
yeah,
concrete and dirt,
Wow.
but yeah, you couldn't push a tire down there. It's
Really?
Yeah, and with the whole stormwater thing is to try to make these culverts bigger to slow the velocity of the water down.
Yeah.
So that's why, you see them all get increased to a big
Yeah.
size, because you take a stream that's 5 feet and you neck it down to 18, the velocity increases.
Yeah.
And then you get stream bank erosion and blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah.
the flow restoration plan
Yeah.
is what they call it.
So-
Interesting.
Yeah, yeah,
But Dave and Julie take care of all that.
yeah.
Yeah.
They handle that.
yeah.
But
It's gonna
that's
be big.
that's coming up this year for sure.
I would
Yeah,
say, yeah.
pre-bid meeting is the 28th next week, and then bids are due the 28th of March. So,
Is that
Yeah.
town, have you got some outside money for most of that, some of that, or
yeah, a good chunk of that. Yeah,
a good chunk of that?
yeah. Just the same thing with Tanglewood. Tanglewood is
Huh.
we got $460,000 to do that project, and it's going to cost about maybe $600,000, I think, at the end of it.
Wow.
Yeah.
I
So
think you might have given me the figure before, but for all the stormwater projects, we're talking, I mean, a lot of millions of dollars here,
tens
right?
of millions. Yeah.
Talking like 25, 30 mil, or am I dreaming that up?
Nope,
Something
that's
like
about
that?
that's the last figure. So
Really?
and it'll obviously keep going up. So
And again, you've told me before, St. Albans Town is one of, it's not like there are a ton of towns or municipalities in Vermont dealing with this,
and we're called the MS4.
MS4.
community, Yeah, and I think there's a dozen, 12, 14 or so. MS4, yeah.
I guess
Yeah.
that seems surprising to me at quick glance that they're not more,
And nobody
Towns that
applied
have
to be
to
on
do-
that, on that
Really?
list, yeah.
But it's coming. Other towns are, you
Yeah.
know, the state's starting to send notices out to people in Swanton and.
Oh, yeah.
because
Yeah.
Swanton's not one of those towns,
No,
right?
but my parents live on a sand pit pretty much, and
Huh.
they got a stormwater thing, and the town
Really?
took over the road, so now the town needs to deal with it. And my parents like, what are this? You know, they're on a fixed income, they're retired, whatever. And
Oh, it's a 3-acre rule,
yeah.
yeah.
yeah, and I'm just like, they're on a sand, like you can't get any better than that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
But
yeah. The state had a small grant program out for $49,999 each. So I'm sure that was an accounting, auditing number, but that was for private homeowners to address some stormwater issues. So that has since closed. So sorry to tease everybody with that, but there are communities and people in different communities that aren't MS4s that still have to do,
oh, yeah.
address stormwater issues. So
And funding, I know you talked to Rick Dickinson and other folks about that, but I mean, funding's a concern. I mean, St. Albans Sound is obviously picking up some of it. Is it not clear as you go down the road how much the town will have to pay for these projects?
it's going to be on a project by project basis.
Really? Project by
and
project?
but with our stormwater utility, it keeps the cost down really for the town and for the taxpayers in the long run, because we don't have to bond out or anything for the project. We're going to do projects with stormwater utility if we get a grant for it too, for the most part. The one on French Hill culvert, we're replacing that as well.
Huh.
And that's one where we're covering most of that one, mostly because it would have kicked the project a year or so out because the state said we had to go back and basically start over from a previous RFP process 5 years ago or something like that. So we said, hey, we have it. This needs to be replaced, especially to finish French Hill paving in the near future. We wanted to fix the culvert so we could do that sooner than later.
Well, French Hill, we've certainly talked about that before. Sounds like some issues on French Hill for forever, for many years.
But they're getting better. Like I think we're
So
gonna,
you're
in the next
gradually
few
making
years,
progress?
I think we're gonna have that pretty much wrapped up.
Really?
For the most part, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot better than it was 5 years ago.
That's
Yeah.
right. I might have
We're good.
mentioned, and you would know this, but town of Swanton has, where they've got one section that's just in Swanton, obviously, that sounds like a very tough place to deal with. I've talked to those guys about that, but I don't know if you know specifically.
Not a whole lot on
I
that
don't
one.
even know if they're paved up there.
Yeah, it sounds like there's
On
one
that.
section up there that's not easy for them to.
Yeah,
to
it's out of
deal
the
with.
way because I think it's Sheldon and Fairfield on
Yeah.
one side of it, and then
Uh,
you're saying they got to drive through to get to it,
uh.
through St. Albans or Sheldon to get to it.
Yeah.
So are all the MS4, all the stormwater projects, have you got kind of plans for them? Are you still working on getting plans down the road for that? Do you know
Yep.
exactly what you have to deal with now, I guess is my question?
I would say generally speaking,
Generally.
yes. But, we're kind of just going down the list of projects. So the list that was presented to me when I first got here was Tanglewood, Clyde Allen, and from what I see kind of at a glance, it seems to be the most expensive at the top.
Yeah.
That's AKA the biggest ones. And go down. I mean, there are ones on there that are $10,000 to $30,000.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, because
So-
now when somebody develops, like it's up to them
Mm-hmm.
to keep these are the ones that like slip through the cracks 20,
Yeah.
30 years
So in
ago.
retrospect, hindsight being 2020, I mean, you shouldn't be having to deal with really any of this. This should have been just engineered better at these developments early on, or?
Well, I think they were supposed to get well, they did get state permits, but I don't know
It was
if
a different
the state,
process
or
back
it was a
then.
different
Yeah.
process that never got followed through.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
Yeah.
so, in order for us to meet our MS4 permit requirements, we have to do something about it.
Mhm.
And that doesn't mean every development that comes in that we're gonna go fix their stormwater pond because the guy that did it yesterday didn't do it right.
Yeah.
yeah.
Chances are they're on the list. So whichever ones that
Right.
is on this, because we didn't create the list, the state did.
Yeah.
So they did. I don't know how long they worked on it, but I'm sure it was for a long time. And they decided, picked where the problem areas are basically.
Yeah. St. Albans PD coverage in the town? You satisfied with the coverage you're getting from St. Albans PD, Jonathan?
Yeah, they increase their patrols throughout the town. It's
Yeah.
more noticeable,
Huh.
as as they bring on new officers and stuff, and as they take on a new contract. Some of them been there for years, but some of them are new. So
Yeah,
we made, well, I did personally, but I think Sean and other people made some suggestions, and they listened.
Mhm.
yeah.
The street crimes unit just did some good stuff this
That's up
morning.
and running. Is that right?
And yeah,
Oh, yeah.
so
Wow.
that was great. I saw that when I drove by this morning.
So is that
So
right?
it's
So some
working,
activity
yeah.
this morning?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's working.
Problem
They
areas,
told us to
yeah.
be patient. It ain't gonna. It takes time to build cases, and
Yeah,
I'm very pleased. Very pleased.
yeah. Interesting. And you hear, so you don't hear too many complaints? Most people, if the subject comes up, seem,
It's
unless they got a speeding ticket or something.
Yeah,
Right, yeah,
I hate to say it, but it's the same people. Like, you get the same people. Like, I really like the sheriff, and it's like, I
Yeah.
really like the St. Albans PD, and then it's
Yeah.
like, well, I don't like the sheriff. Right? It's the same.
Yeah.
It's the same.
Yeah.
Like, you couldn't keep them happy either way.
Yeah.
Seems like speeding. I mean, always hear, just any municipal officials I talk to, always hear about speeding issues. I mean, that comes up, and it seems like that always comes up in towns, but
It seemed
any
like-
particular issues that you hear about for police coverage wise?
Well, I asked the officer. I'm like, well, why don't you? So he's like, it's every road. He's
Yeah.
like, we just don't have time with the thefts.
Yeah,
We
Yeah.
got to respond to Walmart. We got to go up to
Yeah.
Highgate Common. We got to go.
yeah,
Way on the set, a Jolly store because somebody broke in. Like, that takes
Really?
1 to 2 officers off. There's
Oh.
only
Yeah.
3 on,
yeah,
and then something,
And the
so they're
paperwork
bouncing
and
around.
reporting
Yeah,
and-
it's just
yeah.
it's so so tedious on the force. Like, it's
Yeah.
just, so that's why they can't go. They're starting to patrol a little bit. Like, you can tell that. The activity that happens in the summer has gone down because, you see them parked here
Yeah.
and there, I see them
Yeah.
down on Lake Street, towards the bay part,
Yeah.
patrolling, but they don't have a lot of time to do
Yeah.
patrols. It's
Yeah.
just, not unless they hire 5 more people and increase the budget another million, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
but that's not gonna happen either because then,
Sure.
the budget, but I think as the street crimes unit, keeps on doing their thing, and that'll allow the street patrol
yeah,
to get back to the speeders, because McQuam Shore's always been an issue, it's
Yeah.
straight, it's kind of out of the way, but you never be too surprised when you see St. Albans PD on McQuam Shore because,
yeah.
they just pop up,
Yeah.
which is
I-
great.
I had a friend used to play tennis with who lived in St. Albans Bay. He's out of McQuam Shore now, but when I was doing St. Albans Messenger columns some years ago, he said, "Richard, come down some morning." And I did, and it was just unbelievable, the folks just speeding out of the bay. It was the sheriff's department. I think I called up the sheriff or asked about, but I was struck by it, just a ton of speeding early in the morning.
I heard more
Yeah.
complaints about speeding. There's like 2 years, like the first summer I was here, so
Yeah.
2023. There seemed to be like a fever pitch of speeding complaints at that time. I didn't hear them as much this last year.
Not so
Yeah.
much now.
Doesn't mean it didn't happen, but
Yeah.
just in terms of how many times people brought it to me. Yeah.
Right. I think we've talked about Highgate Commons. I think have you said that you're impressed with what pretty new owners had at
Oh, yeah.
Highgate Commons? Was that?
I am, but it's I've been working with them for a while. I first came in early in my tenure.
Of course, Ocean State Job Lot.
Yeah.
I
Actually went to their ribbon cutting a month or 2 ago.
yeah.
Yeah, and they've got some other things they're working on to fill it up. And they got
Right.
some good plans in general, really. I'll just leave it at that for right now, but very exciting group, very forward thinking. Yeah.
So a chance we might see some of the vacant space in there getting filled up. It's obviously the hope, but
Yeah, everything that they've told me about has been backed up
Really?
not soon after, so.
Yeah, it seems to be like there's
Huh.
the hair loft's going in there,
Yeah.
that playing card.
Oh, yeah, next to Hannaford's.
That's
yeah.
busy. My kid loves going in there.
is that right?
Yeah, and
Interesting.
there's just a bunch of people playing.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't
Yeah.
think it was that popular around here,
Yeah.
but I
Is
mean
that right?
that whole room
Right.
is full of them
That's great.
playing that. I don't know what it is.
And I'm a thrift store guy, and they were so happy to move from one end to the
other
old
side.
Radio
Yeah.
Shack for more. They desperately needed more. I know how
Yeah.
happy that lady was to
Mhm.
put more space in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it seems to be coming back.
Yeah. And they're doing renovations and stuff before a tenant comes in. So
Yeah.
I think that's pretty,
Making it a little
Good
more
step.
appealing for
Mhm.
the tent, you know,
yeah.
because I think they offered the school to like fit it up.
Yep. And they're doing under market
Yeah.
per foot rental too, so.
Exit 19, again, we're talking roundabout rotary in the future.
It's
Time
happening.
frame for that, is that, you probably told me, is that years away or not too many years?
I think at
2026 or
best
something?
26, yeah.
26,
Yeah,
27.
26,
Really?
27, yeah. Yeah, so,
Boy, that's gonna be interesting when they deal with that work. I mean, folks are gonna still be able to get up on the interstate there?
I would assume people are gonna try to avoid it and get on at
Just get on exit
18
20
or-
or
yeah.
18.
18 or 20, whatever.
that's what I
they
do
live.
anyway. I take 18 if I'm
Yeah.
be on that
Alright.
side of town.
You know, people are
Yeah.
gonna try to avoid it, you know, there's still
Right.
gonna be some delays, like typical traffic, but I
Do
think
what they
once
have to
it's
do.
once it's in, I think it's gonna be really,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's gonna work very smooth, the traffic's gonna stay moving,
Yeah,
Yeah,
you know, I
Yeah.
think it's gonna be good.
no, and we'll just see how other things are addressed too during that process, so,
and that's solid, that's
happening.
definitely moving ahead.
Yep.
Inter-
yes, it is.
What about exit 20? Have you had some discussions with Swanton folks about some activity around exit 20, Jonathan? Seems like Swanton folks, I guess, what, National Guard, they're looking to move in on Swanton property up there, but,
I think I saw that in a messenger, but I don't know if that's still true or not, if they're still looking
Oh,
to
yeah.
come in or
no,
not.
not
but
sure.
I think so.
I would say, I believe that's their southern growth district.
think that's what-
I don't
that's
know
what
why
it
they
is.
wouldn't invite, you know, a big player of the game like that. I'd invite them if I had a spot in a town
Yeah.
like that.
Have you
Like,
talked,
yeah.
have you gotten together with them about that or not, Sean?
Yeah, I'm not sure how I'd characterize it as that, just kind of happens in conversations.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure, yeah, that,
Brian Savage, of course, is Swanton.
yep,
Town
former rep.
manager.
And, yes, we have, because our Northern Growth Center is essentially attached to their Southern Growth.
Yeah,
I believe there's gonna be development there, because we talked about water, even though it's not our water, it's the city's, but,
yeah.
there's a lot of discussion about that.
Of course, the expectation when Walmart finally made it was, well, of course, there'd be a Home Depot or a Lowe's, and actually one of them
I saw plans.
actually did have some interest for a while, but went away, but,
It was Lowe's. I saw
it was
that, I saw
Lowe's.
the actual, the map of it.
yeah, it sounds like that was, hearing nothing about anything like that by Walmart.
Not behind it, because the same map I saw, if you take a wetland map and put it over it, that's what you see. So, because I saw a proposed street too, a new street that was gonna kind
Right.
of go parallel to Route 7 there.
And that project, that's long, right, I remember talking about that for some years, that's long gone?
Yeah, I think that was 10, 15 years ago.
That sounds
I
about
think.
right.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything, but
That was supposed to come out in front of the old Fonda building, right?
yes.
Right, they were
Yeah.
talking that, starting it
there and come out
Right.
in 207, like,
Right.
I don't even know if that's possible anymore
Yeah,
with some of the stuff on Ruiz Drive,
yeah,
but anything
Yeah.
can be moved.
Yeah, yeah, it could be. It'd be tough.
It'd be
Yeah,
tough now,
brain's
yeah.
working, but, yeah, it'd be a lot of moving parts, but I mean, if the right person came in with the,
Right, nothing's impossible,
Yeah.
Yeah.
as long as everybody's happy.
as long as it's not in a wetland.
I
Yeah.
love that too. But you can trade up, like you can,
Yeah,
Like
kind
a
of do like
book-
a swap.
yeah, you can do a
Yeah.
swap thing, like, so if you
Yeah.
really need a piece, you can convert, you know, a
Yeah.
piece into wetlands,
Yeah.
that, you know, I've seen that done.
It's gonna be something the state has to face here in the next 10 years, is they have two priorities and goals. One is to increase housing, and the other is to preserve 50% of the land, and those two
Oh.
things don't mesh, yeah.
Not very well.
on that note, that's gonna do it.
Okay.
Thanks for the info, Jonathan Giroux, the St. Albans Town Select Board Chairman, Sean Adkins, the St. Albans Town Manager, and again, March Town Meeting Day not far away, Tuesday, March 4th, voting at Collins Pearly. If you haven't voted before, 7 to 7 that day. Contested Select Board race and a budget, the main items for voters to figure out and vote on. Thanks for watching us here on Northwest Access TV. Thanks to producer Alan Cunningham. I'm Richard Cowperthwait. See you next time.